All right, so we're diving into Act 2, Scene 4 of Romeo and Juliet. And it's like the play is suddenly hitting the gas pedal, you know? After that whirlwind romance in Act 1, Romeo's totally hung up on Rosaline, remember? But get ready, because we're about to meet some characters who really shake things up, especially for you high schoolers out there. This scene is pure gold for class discussions.
Absolutely. This scene is where Shakespeare starts to layer in those complex themes that make this play so timeless. We're going to see the contrast between that lighthearted banter and those serious undertones. Plus, get some early hints about the conflicts that are brewing beneath the surface.
Okay, so picture this. Benvolio and Mercutio are just hanging out, waiting for Romeo, who's MIA, probably off mooning over Rosaline somewhere. And Mercutio, well, he's like that friend. You know, the one who can just make you laugh even when you're feeling down. But he's also got this sharp wit that cuts right to the heart of things.
That's exactly it. Mercutio is more than just comic relief. He's like a walking commentary track on the other characters and the whole situation. For example, Tybalt, Juliet's hot-headed cousin, has sent a challenge to Romeo's family, and Mercutio's already predicting a duel.
And Mercutio can't resist a good jab. He describes Tybalt as more than Prince of Cats and the very butcher of a silk button. Now, when you read that in class, it's pretty funny, right?
Of course. But think about those words for a second. Shakespeare is giving you clues about Tybalt's personality. Prince of Cats suggests that he's arrogant and thinks he's top dog. And butcher of a silk button hints at his obsession with appearances and his potential for violence, even though it was something trivial. It's all foreshadowing for later in the play.
So Romeo finally shows up, and he's described as looking like, get this, a dried herring. Not exactly the Romeo we saw all starry-eyed in Act 1, right?
It's such a stark contrast. But then Mercutio starts poking fun at him, and something interesting happens. Romeo starts to come alive again. He even gets in on the witty banter. You can almost see him escaping his melancholy through wordplay.
Yeah, like that pump-well-flowered exchange. I'm guessing your teachers love digging into that one.
Absolutely.
It shows us that Romeo's not just a lovesick puppy. He's got brains and wit to match Mercutio.
And don't miss the importance of their friendship here. Mercutio is trying to pull Romeo out of his funk, showing that he genuinely cares about him. This is important later in the play, because you'll see how much Mercutio's death affects Romeo.
And just as things are getting lively, the nurse shows up. Talk about a scene stealer. She's like a whirlwind of fuss and pronouncements, full of malapropisms and totally oblivious to how Mercutio is making fun of her.
The nurse provides some much-needed comedic relief, but Shakespeare is also using her to represent the lower class. She speaks differently, she acts differently, and her interactions with the aristocratic characters really highlight those social divisions.
And let's be honest, Mercutio just can't help himself. He loves teasing her. Calling her fan the fairer face is classic Mercutio.
It is, and that's another thing to watch for in this scene, the way Mercutio uses humor to poke fun at everyone, but especially the nurse. It's almost like he's reminding us that no one is above. A little bit of playful ridicule.
But amidst all this joking around, Romeo drops a major bombshell. He tells the nurse that he's planning to marry Juliet. That very afternoon, talk about impulsive, right?
This is a pivotal moment in the play, maybe one your teacher will put on a quiz. Romeo's sudden decision to marry Juliet, someone he's only just met, speaks volumes about his passionate nature. It also raises a big question that you can bring up in class. Is this true love or just infatuation?
And he even uses this imagery of a tackled stare to describe their secret plan, which kind of sets the stage for this thrilling but clandestine adventure.
The imagery is key. Tackled stare suggests they're sneaking around, doing something forbidden. Remember, their families hate each other. So this marriage is a recipe for disaster.
Even the nurse, with all her comedic antics, throws in a word of caution. Two may keep counsel, putting one away, which is basically her reminding Romeo that secrets rely on trust.
And that's going to be a major theme throughout the play. Romeo and Juliet's secret puts a strain on their relationships and ultimately contributes to the tragedy. This one scene sets up so much of what's to come.
So what we've got here is witty banter, a glimpse into societal dynamics, a secret marriage plot, and a whole lot of foreshadowing. But before we jump into the next part of our deep dive, let's take a minute to reflect. What stands out to you so far? What questions do you have? This is the kind of stuff your teachers love to hear in class discussions.
That's right. Don't be afraid to share your thoughts and interpretations. There's no one right answer when it comes to analyzing Shakespeare. It's fascinating how this scene also reveals a lot about Romeo's character development. We see him go from moping about Rosaline to, trading witty barbs with Mercutio. It's like Mercutio's energy is contagious.
Totally. It makes you wonder, though, is Romeo really over Rosaline? Or is he just trying to distract himself with all this wordplay? I bet your English teacher will have some thoughts on that one.
Definitely. It's a question worth pondering. Is Romeo truly in love with Juliet? Or is he just transferring his feelings from one unattainable woman to another? This scene plants those seeds of doubt early on.
And let's not forget about the nurse. She's way more than just comic relief. She's Juliet's confidant, her protector, and in a way her voice of reason.
Absolutely. The nurse is crucial to the plot. She's the link between Romeo and Juliet, helping them communicate in secret and ultimately enabling their marriage. But she also has this naive side, which makes her vulnerable to Romeo's charm and those grand declarations of love.
It's like she's caught between wanting what's best for Juliet and being swept up in this whirlwind romance. I can just imagine all the debates you could have in class about whether she's making the right choices.
Exactly. Her actions have huge consequences for everyone involved. Remember, this is a play about forbidden love. And the nurse becomes complicit in their secret marriage. It raises questions about loyalty, trust, and the boundaries between social classes.
It also makes you think about the role of adults in this play. Are they helpful guides? Or are they blinded by their own desires and prejudices? Shakespeare definitely isn't giving us easy answers.
And that's what makes this scene, and the whole play, so brilliant. It's not just a love story. It's a deep dive into human nature, societal pressures, and the unpredictable twists of fate. We laugh with Mercutio, we swoon with Romeo, but we also sense that things are going to get messy and fast.
Okay, so let's recap some of those key takeaways. For all you students out there trying to ace those English exams, first off, we meet Mercutio, the king of wit and sarcasm, but also a character who reveals a lot about the other characters around him. Pay attention to his language, his observations, and his relationships. There's a lot to unpack there.
We also see Romeo going through some major emotional shifts in this scene. Is he genuinely moving on from Rosaline? Or is this new love just a rebound? Shakespeare gives us clues, but he wants you to think for yourself.
And then there's the nurse, a complex character who brings both humor and a touch of reality to the story. Her choices, her motivations, and her relationship with Juliet are all worth analyzing in detail.
Don't forget the foreshadowing, too. The tackled stare, the nurse's warning about secrets. These are hints about the challenges and dangers ahead for Romeo and Juliet. Shakespeare is a master of planting those seeds early on, so keep your eyes peeled.
Remember, this scene is just one piece of the puzzle, but it's a crucial one. It sets the stage for everything that follows, introducing key characters, themes, and conflicts that will drive the story forward.
So when you're discussing the scene in class, don't be afraid to share your own interpretations and engage with your classmates. There are so many layers to peel back here, and that's what makes studying Shakespeare so rewarding.
You know, it's amazing how Shakespeare can make you laugh out loud one minute and then have you like holding your breath the next. This scene is a perfect example of that.
That's so true. You've got Mercutio cracking jokes, the nurse bustling around, and Romeo smitten with Juliet. It's all very lighthearted on the surface, but underneath there's this growing sense of unease, like we're on the edge of a storm.
Yeah, it's like those dark clouds. You see them rolling in on a summer day. You know something big is coming, but you're not quite sure when it's going to hit.
Exactly. Shakespeare gives us those glimpses of darkness through the imagery, the foreshadowing, and even the character's own anxieties. Think about the tackled stare metaphor. It hints at both excitement and danger.
Right, and the nurse's warning about secrets, that's a big red flag. It's like she's sensing that Romeo and Juliet's plan is going to have some serious consequences.
Remember, this play is set in a world where family feuds run deep, and violence can erupt at any moment. Romeo and Juliet's secret marriage is like a spark waiting to ignite a powder keg.
It really makes you think about the choices we make, especially when we're young and in love. Are we driven by passion? Or are we being reckless?
That's a question that Shakespeare explores throughout the play. Romeo and Juliet are driven by their love for each other, but they're also blinded by their youthful idealism. They underestimate the dangers around them, and that ultimately leads to their downfall.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive into Act 2, Scene 4, I want to leave you with this thought. Imagine you're back in Shakespeare's time. You're sitting in the audience watching this scene unfold on stage.
You've seen Romeo's whirlwind romance with Rosaline, you've met the quick-witted Mercutio, and you've witnessed Romeo's impulsive decision to marry Juliet. What are your hopes and fears for these characters?
Yeah, what do you think the future holds for them? And how do you think their choices will shape their destiny? Keep those questions in mind as you continue reading Romeo and Juliet. And I think you'll be amazed at how much depth and complexity you'll discover in this timeless tale